All right, Genesis 41 is where we are. If you have your Reconcile app, these slides are in your Coram Deo. I tested it this morning, so I know they are there for those of you that want to follow along with us today. Today marks the end of daylight savings time. It's going to start to get darker a little earlier as we head into the fall season. And here in the West, we are uber cognizant of time, but yet we don't appreciate timing as much as we do time. Remember back in Genesis 21 when God finally delivered Yitzhak to Abraham and Sarah after they waited 25 years for the son of promise. We talked about that the difference between Kronos time and Kairos time. Remember? We talked about the difference between chronological time versus Kairos, or the appointed or specific timing. That God is not just the God of chronological time, but God is a God of the appointed time. And God doesn't move according to, and He doesn't implement His plans and His purposes according to chronological time. God has Kairos, appointed times. God is waiting for a particular timing when He moves. We were reminded about that in Genesis 21, and here in Genesis 41, we're reminded about that reality again. So as we've set our clocks back, I got nervous when Morcelin called me at 8:15 and said, "Is there a problem? You guys aren't here." And so I got nervous. I said, "No, it's only 8:15." He said, "No, it's 9:15." I said, "Nah, we had to set our clocks back today." He said, "Oh, now I feel better about things. I thought I had to come lead the church on my own today." I said, "No, more so that we are down the street, my brother. We will be there in a minute." So I want you thinking as we transition and as we sort of wrestle with daylight savings time and setting our clocks back in this text today. We're going to wrestle with this idea of time versus timing. Here's the big, hairy, audacious theme for today. It was the third song that we sung. Our God is a way maker. He's a miracle worker, a promise keeper, and a light in the darkness. And in Genesis 41, that's exactly who He is to Yosef. And we get a sense of that all throughout today's text. So follow me. We're going to see three major sort of chapters. We'll break these 36 verses up, 1 through 8, and then 9 through 13, and then 14 through 36. But the first sort of movement in verses 1 through 8, Pharaoh's dream takes center stage. Now, when we left off last week in Genesis 40, Yosef is disappointed because he had served the baker and the cupbearer well, and he pleaded with the cupbearer. He said, "Man, when you get restored to your job, when you're back working for the king, hey man, remember me, don't forget about me. I did you a solid. Would you do me a solid and put a word in for me with the most powerful man in the world?" And the reality is, when the cupbearer was restored to his position, what happened? The last verse in chapter 40 says twice that he forgot all about Joseph. Didn't remember him, forgot all about him. And so we find Joseph disappointed, despondent, dejected that the cupbearer's forgotten about him. And so as we look into this week's story, look at just the first phrase in verse 1, and then we'll pause right there before we get into Pharaoh's dream. It says, at the end of 2 years, stop right there, just that one phrase. Fast forward 2 years between Genesis 40 and Genesis 41, 2 years have gone by. Joseph is master of the prison, but he is rotting away. He is languishing. He's deteriorating in this prison for 2 years. Can you imagine the anguish Joseph must be enduring during these 2 years? He's incarcerated on false charges, though he serves as master of the prison. He's largely been forgotten by Potiphar and the chief cupbearer, but not by God. God is still with Joseph, even though it doesn't seem like it, doesn't look like it, doesn't feel like it. You heard that in the song, right? Waymaker. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. You never stop working. And even though Joseph doesn't feel it, doesn't see it, doesn't sense it, God's at work. 2 years forgotten, left behind, left out. And Joseph is probably thinking, man, am I going to die in this prison? But what about the dream that God gave me, those 13 years ago? Joseph is now 30 years old in the text. God, 13 years ago when I was 17, you gave me this dream that I was going to be special, but it's been 13 years of slavery and prison. Guys, can I just say that I don't know what circumstance you're in right now. I don't know how long you've been in it. And I don't know if you feel like you are deteriorating, like you are languishing, rotting away, wasting away in whatever circumstance or situation you're in. But I stopped by to tell you that God is a God of Kairos time, not Kronos time. God is waiting for the appointed time to execute His plans and His purposes in your life. And God is not watching His Apple Watch while you're living your life. God is waiting for a special, an appointed, a unique time when He's going to move and do what He said He was going to do in your life. And I know Joseph didn't feel that after 13 years. He was a teenager when his brother sold him into slavery. Now he's 30 years old. No wife, no kids, no prospect, no professional, vocational career. God, what are you doing? Where are you in my life and in my circumstance at the end of 2 years? But you guys know it's been 13. And this is hard because we expect for God not to leave us in desperate circumstances and situations for 13 years. I mean, his great-grandfather had to wait 25 years to get Isaac. And the reality is, we don't like to wait. I've been waiting 21 months to figure out, God, where's my next vocational and professional opportunity, where I'm applying for jobs, I'm interviewing, what is going on, where are you? So this is relevant to me because I'm learning that, Daryl, this isn't personal. This is just who God is. And I know it's easier said than done, but anyway, I just wanted to encourage you in your waiting. The song, Hungry, I'm on My Knees, the pre-chorus to the song says, so I'll wait for you. So I'll wait. That's the only reason we sung Hungry on My Knees, because of the pre-chorus. That's all we really wanted. Lord, I'm falling on my knees and I'm giving you all of me. Jesus, you're all that my heart really lives for and longs for. So I'll wait. Didn't we just sung that, right? So how long are we willing to wait? You guys see how we weave in the worship to have a consistent theme and message on Sunday morning? How long are we willing to wait? Joseph has waited 13 years. But the tide is beginning to turn in Genesis 41 as we race toward Genesis 50. Now, Pharaoh's dream is the catalyst. It is the impetus for God to turn Joseph's setbacks into the setup. This is all a part of God's plan. And so the rest of verse 1 says, at the end of 2 years, Pharaoh had a dream, and he was standing beside the Nile. Stop right there. In Pharaoh's dream, this is the Egyptian king, and in his dream, he's standing beside the Nile. Let me give you a couple of quotes from some authors. Kenneth Matthews is one of them. It says the sustenance of the entire nation of Egypt depended on the Nile. It flooded every year, providing millions of acres of arable land for the nation's food. Another author said the Nile water system was the most conspicuous feature of Egypt's geography and the primary source for the country's economic and social stability. The Nile River is absolutely essential to Egypt's society and to their economic system. And so in Pharaoh's dream, he's standing by the Nile River. And look, as we look through verses 2 through 8, the rest of his dream. And then he saw 7 healthy-looking, well-fed cows came up from the Nile and began to graze among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows, sickly and thin, came up from the Nile and stood beside those cows along the bank of the Nile. The sickly, thin cows ate the healthy, well-fed cows. Then Pharaoh woke up. Verse 4. Now in verse 5, he fell asleep again and dreamed a second time, and 7 heads of grain, plump and good, came up on one stalk. After them, 7 heads of grain, thin and scorched by the east wind, sprouted up. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 plump, full ones. Then Pharaoh woke up and realized that it was only a dream. Verse 8 says, when morning came, he was troubled. So he summons all of the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men, and Pharaoh told them his dreams, but no one could interpret them for him. Pharaoh's dream is more like a nightmare which greatly vexes him. Like the cupbearer and the baker before him, there's no one to interpret his dream. And remember last week, we said this predicament of having a dream with no interpretation is akin to having a diagnosis without a prognosis. Remember we talked about that last week? And so here, the most powerful man in the world has had 2 dreams, and he is disturbed greatly. He's vexed. He's troubled. He is flustered and rattled by these dreams that he's had. Verses 9 through 13, the cupbearer's delinquency is brought to light. Because think about the chaos in the throne room. Pharaoh has had these dreams or these nightmares last night, and it is morning time, and the king has brought in all of his wise men and all of his advisors. This is very reminiscent to the book of Daniel. If you are thinking back to our study in Daniel in 2023, same sort of thing. Nebuchadnezzar is having dreams, and then nobody can interpret them, and Daniel is able to do it. Joseph is the precursor to Daniel's story. Can you imagine the chaos and confusion and anxiety in the throne room when all of the king's wise men, these guys who are dream interpreters, are unable to tell Pharaoh about these dreams? Can you imagine how uneasy everybody is? Everyone who works for the king, their number one job is to keep him happy. And they're all failing miserably at their job because he is vexed. He's out of his mind because remember, in the ancient world, they believe dreams come from the gods. And so getting a proper interpretation allowed them to be in tune with the gods and know the gods' plans. So Pharaoh believes that one of the gods, remember the Egyptians are polytheists. They believe in a whole pantheon of gods, right? So what Pharaoh believes now that it's morning time is that one of the gods is trying to get his attention. And is trying to communicate with him about something that is going to take place. And he has no idea which God it is or what the message is. So how can he conduct himself, and how can he make the right decisions and move in the right direction if he has no clue about what is happening? So he's greatly disturbed, but the scene shifts to the cupbearer in these few verses. Look at verses 9 through 13. This is interesting. We'll stop at verse 9. It says, "Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, 'Today I remember my sins,'" or my faults. The chief cupbearer Zakhar's his sin for forgetting Joseph. He remembers his disloyalty to Joseph, though 2 years ago, when Joseph pleaded with him, "Hey man, put in a good word for me with the boss." Pharaoh's current crisis prompts the chief cupbearer to remember his disloyalty, his delinquency, his dereliction of duty to Joseph 2 years prior. Now he's going to recount for Pharaoh how Joseph showed up and blessed him 2 years before, but he remembers, "I didn't bless Joseph, but Joseph blessed me." You got some folks in your life that you've blessed, and then when you needed a blessing from them, you needed them to show up for you. You needed them to advocate or be an ally or put a word in or help you up or call you up or help you get in the door, and they forgot. The cupbearer remembers his sin. He remembers his faults. He remembers his dereliction of duty. And now he's going to recount it for Pharaoh so that he can get Joseph before the king. Verse 10 says, Pharaoh was angry with his servants. This is the cupbearer's remembrance of what happened 2 years ago. Pharaoh was angry with his servants, and he put me and the chief baker in custody of the captain of the guards. That is Potiphar, right? And he and I, the cupbearer and the baker, they had dreams on the same night, and each dream had its own meaning. Now, a young Hebrew, a slave of the captain of the guards, who is Potiphar, was with us there. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted our dreams for us, and each had its own interpretation, and it turned out just the way he interpreted them to us. I was restored to my position, and the other man, the baker, was hanged. You remember that, Pharaoh? You hanged him. You hung him. Hanged ain't a word. You hung him, remember? But you had grace and favor on me and restored me to my position. So the cupbearer, so you see, he doesn't have a memory problem. He just recounted everything exactly the way it happened. So he didn't forget about Joseph. He chose not to be loyal to the one who was loyal to him. But even when men are disloyal, even when people let us down, God never will let us down, because God circumvents the cupbearer's disloyalty and delinquency and dereliction of duty, and God gets Joseph before Pharaoh because of Pharaoh's dream, not because the chief cupbearer's recollection of Joseph. Now, verses 14 through 36, this is good. Joseph is released from the dungeon to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. Just verses 14, 15, and 16. Let's look at just those three verses together. Joseph is before Pharaoh, but Joseph reveals God to Pharaoh. I love this. Just look at this. It says, "Then Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and they quickly brought him from his dungeon." And what did they do to him? They shaved him and changed his clothes and went to Pharaoh. The Pharaoh moves expeditiously to get Joseph from the prison. Joseph is shaven and invested with appropriate clothing. Remember, we talked about the anthropological significance of garments in the as a motif throughout the Joseph Chronicles. Remember, his dad gave him that glitzy garment and his brother stripped him of it. When he became master of Potiphar's house, he was given clothes to designate him as master of Potiphar's affairs, and Potiphar's wife divested him of his garment as she was trying to seduce him. Now, as he's being brought before the most powerful man in the world, he's shaven, probably all of his hair on his head and his face. You know, usually Egyptian men in the ancient world were clean shaven, bald, and no facial hair. To be shaven as a Semite was problematic, because usually you shaved, if you were a Hebrew Semite, you shaved when you were grieving or when there was a tragedy. It's unthinkable for a Jewish man to be clean shaven, no hair and no facial hair. But he's in Egypt, he's not in the promised land. And so they shave him clean, and they give him garments that are appropriate for him to go stand before the king. So every time Joseph is elevated, what happens? He's invested with garments that are appropriate for the social change or the class that he is entering into. And every time he's demoted, every time he is shamed, his garments are taken away from him. And here Joseph is given new garments. Take those prison clothes off and put on these garments, because you're going to go talk to Pharaoh. Just wanted to make that note about the significance of him being shaved in these new garments. Look at 15 and 16 are awesome. Pharaoh says to Joseph, I have had a dream and no one can interpret it. But listen to this. Your reputation has preceded you, but I've heard it said about you that you can hear a dream and interpret it. And look at what Joseph, this is shocking. Joseph says, I can't do that. I'm not able to. That's what his answer was to Pharaoh. Joseph says, it is God who will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. What? Joseph emphatically says in the text, I cannot, but God can. You believe that response? Keep in mind, Joseph's been waiting, dreaming, anticipating for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to meet Pharaoh, to plead his case, to request exoneration for the false conviction and unjust imprisonment, and ultimately to set him free from his slavery. And all Joseph has to do is to position himself as the man who can remedy Pharaoh's ordeal. And the hope is that Pharaoh will be grateful and then grant Joseph's request. However, Joseph refuses to oversell his abilities. He rejects the opportunity to take credit for his charisma, his giftings, his skill set. Joseph gives all glory to God. And I wonder what it would take for God's people to give God the glory, the honor, the praise, the credit for all that we are and for all that we've accomplished in this life. Can we just pause right here and right now give God hand praise for all that He has achieved in us and through us? Guys, when people celebrate you, when they particularize you, when they shout you out and say, man, you're excellent at this, You're phenomenal at that. You're remarkable. You're extraordinary. You have this gifting. You have that charisma. You've got those competencies. You've got amazing skill sets. You've got people skills, whatever it is. I wonder if we could be the kind of people that said, I appreciate that, but really it's just God in me. That's what you're recognizing is God's gifting in me. It's not me. I wonder if we would be like Joseph and just push back. Oh man, you're a great musician. Oh man, you sing so great, or you dance great, or Asia's a B-girl, and man, you got all these. It's God. It's not me. What would it look like for us to stop patting ourselves on the back and looking in the mirror and thinking how great we are, popping our collars and say, without God, I can do nothing, but with him, all things are possible. What would it take for us to be like Joseph? Pharaoh says, no, I heard about you. You've done this before. You have a charisma to interpret dreams. Joseph said, no, I don't. The cupbearer lied to you. Your ability to play that instrument is not because you went to school or you've been playing for 30 years. It's God in us. I just wanted to throw that out there because Joseph is, and if anybody would have gotten a pass for taking credit, Joseph needs to take credit. He got to get out of the dungeon he's in. We would have forgiven Joseph for saying, oh yeah, man, I did that 2 years ago. Pharaoh, I can do it for you too. We would have given him a pass. He's desperate. He's wasting away the best years of his life for being wasted in this dungeon. We would have given him a pass. We would have had compassion and said, man, that wasn't a good look for Joseph, but can you blame the brother? He want to get out of prison. We would have given him a pass. He's got one shot, like Eminem said, you got one shot to blow. And don't miss your opportunity. And what does he do? He throws it all away by saying, Pharaoh, I can't help you. But he said, God can. Don't miss the theological significance of that. Remember, in Egypt, the pharaohs were believed to be the sons of the gods. The people viewed the pharaohs as an extension of the pantheon of the gods. And Joseph is saying to a son of the gods, the real God is going to show you what your dream is about. I don't know what gods you're worshiping in your Egyptian pantheon, but the God of my fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, he's going to show you what your dream is about. Not your gods, but the God I serve. Don't miss that. That took some courage to say that to somebody who believed they were a son of the gods. And Joseph doesn't flinch when he's speaking truth to power. And on my job, when I had to speak truth to the president and to the people in power, and I didn't flinch. Because I'm a tell the truth, and I don't care who doesn't like it, because the reality is I got to stand before Jesus and give an account for my life and for my service. So when you get those opportunities to talk to the CEO or the governor or the president or whoever it is, speak truth to power. Joseph is a foreigner. He's an outsider. He's an immigrant. He's an alien. He's a slave in a foreign land. Doesn't know the culture. He's still figuring it out after 13 years. And here he is talking to the men of all men, and he doesn't flinch. And this puts some steel in my spine. Boy, we got to have a little bit more of Yosef in us, don't we? Now, Pharaoh is not perturbed by Joseph making the case, your wise men, your interpreters can't interpret your dream, but because I'm a man of God, the God of gods is going to give you the interpretation. And so Pharaoh accepts that, because all he knows is Joseph's God is just one of the gods he may not be familiar with. See, when you believe in many gods, you're not upset by somebody introducing you to another god. It's just, you just add them to the list. So Pharaoh's good with that. Not upset. Could have had Joseph killed on the spot. He's like, man, I just want to find out what this dream is about. So watch Pharaoh recount the dream to Joseph in 17, through 24. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream I was standing on the bank of the Nile when 7 well-fed, healthy-looking cows came up from the Nile and grazed among the reeds, and after them 7 other cows, weak and very sick and thin, came up. I've never seen such sickly ones as these in all the land of Egypt. Then the thin, sickly cows ate up the first 7 well-fed cows, and when they had devoured them, they could not tell. You could not tell that they had devoured them. Their appearance was as bad as it had been before. Then I woke up. In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and good, coming up on one stalk, and after them 7 heads of grain, withered, thin, and scorched by the east wind, sprouted up. The thin heads of grain swallowed the 7 good ones, and I told this to the magicians, but no one could tell me what it means. Joseph now moves in verses 25 through 32 to interpret Pharaoh's dream for him. Look at this. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh in verse 25, Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. Don't miss that. Pharaoh's dreams are about what God is about to do. God's given Pharaoh a heads up because he's got a plan for his people. Verse 26, the 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. The dreams mean the same thing, Pharaoh. The 7 thin, sickly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind are 7 years of famine. It is just as I told Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming through the land of Egypt. After them, 7 years of famine will take place, and all the abundance of the land of Egypt will be forgotten. The famine will devastate the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered because of the famine that follows it, for the famine will be very severe. Since the dream was given twice to Pharaoh, it means that the matter has been determined by God, and he will carry it out soon. Joseph is a foreteller as he addresses the future in verses 25 through 32. 7 years of feasting and surplus and plenty will be followed by 7 years of famine and shortages and poverty. You guys get that? There will be feasting, but then a famine. There will be surplus and then a shortage. There will be plenty and then there will be poverty. That's what the dream is all about. Joseph says that the severity of the famine will relegate the feast years to a distant memory. The famine and shortage and poverty years will far outweigh the years of plenty, the years of surplus, the years of feasting. The 7 bad years are going to be way worse than the 7 good years. The theological takeaways is the fact that the dream was delivered in 2 parts confirms its certainty, and it also confirms that God will initiate the events expeditiously. In other words, God is hastening to start the clock on these 14 years. In other words, Pharaoh, this is not my opinion. You can take this to the bank. And not only that, but it's going to happen not now, but the clock is starting right now. It's going to happen right now. Now, don't miss this significance. I love this because John Walton says this in the text. Walton wrote in his commentary, Egypt does not depend on rainfall for its food production, but on the flooding of the Nile, which is much more dependable. Rarely then did the country ever suffer extended periods of famine. So because they depended upon the flooding of the Nile, Egypt was considered the breadbasket of the Greco-Roman world. If you needed grain, if you needed food in the Mediterranean world, you made your way to Egypt. Because the Nile River flooding annually made it so that they could have crops and grain and food to eat year round. So for Pharaoh to hear that they've got 7 years of famine, this is unheard of. This is unprecedented. This is one for the books. And obviously this would have troubled him greatly. Because if the famine is going to be way worse than the feast years, how are we supposed to survive? Will we survive a humanitarian crisis like this famine? What do we do? So Joseph was a foreteller in verses 25 through 32. But here in verses 33 through 36, he's a foreteller as he now transitions to give counsel about the present, about how to navigate these difficult times. Now, Pharaoh did ask Joseph for counsel. He didn't ask him for advice. He said, man, tell me what this dream means. Joseph is moving into a gratuitous situation and is blessing Pharaoh by giving him more than what he asked for and saying, Pharaoh, let me give you some advice, some counsel. Let me give you some logistical strategies about how to navigate and overcome this famine. Watch this. This is masterful. Verses 33 through 36. So now, verse 33 says, here's Joseph's counsel. Let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. And let Pharaoh do this. Let him appoint overseers, managers, governors, stewards over the land to take a fifth of the harvest of the land of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance, and let them gather all of the excess food during these good years that are coming under Pharaoh's authority. Store the grain in the cities so that they may preserve it as food, and the food will be reserved for the land during the 7 years of famine that will take place in the land of Egypt. Then the country will not be wiped out by the famine. Joseph proposes a logistical strategy to survive the famine. The strategy essentially advises Pharaoh to put something away for a rainy day. That's in our culture. That's what we would call it. Put a little something away for a rainy day. That's what Joseph is essentially advising and counseling Pharaoh to do. Brilliant strategy to appoint a wise, discerning governor. Now, do you think Joseph, now here's a debate among scholars, when he says find a wise and discerning man to put over this countrywide initiative, do you think Joseph had himself in mind, or do you think he's just giving wise counsel? Scholars are debating about whether Joseph is saying, hey, you need a wise and discerning young man. I'm available if you're looking for one. I don't know if Joseph is tacitly sort of putting himself up and recommending himself, but he says you need a governor who's going to oversee this initiative, and then you need to appoint some managers and overseers and stewards to work for that governor or that executive director to assist in this enterprise to take 20% of our food during the good years and store them away and a food shelter so that when the years of famine and shortage and poverty come, we will have food that we've saved from the feasting and surplus and years of plenty so that we will not be wiped out by the famine. Joseph's wise counsel is a benefit to Pharaoh. Joseph is both a foreteller and he's also a forth teller as he gives this wise counsel. Look with me at a couple of Coram Deos, and then we'll transition into our observance of the Lord's Supper, Holy Communion. Here's how we live today's message out, Coram Deo, in the presence and before the face of God. In the old black church where I come from, they used to say God may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. Where I come from, Wilma Strickland used to sing that old song, he's an on-time God. Yes, he is. He's an on-time God. Yes, he is. He may not come when you want him, but he'll be there right on time because he's an on-time God. And then she'd say, yes, he is. Oh, boy, everybody be standing on their feet and everybody be swaying like this, and we'd be having church. God didn't come when Joseph wanted him. He came 13 years later, but God is right on time. Joseph's been waiting 2 years to get a meeting with Pharaoh. And it didn't come when he wanted it, but God got him before Pharaoh in the Kairos time, not in the Kronos time. Are you tracking with me? Number two, let us be a unique type of God's people who take no credit for our competencies or our charisma, but rather give all glory to God. Can we agree that we're going to give God the glory? I mean, that's our 7th G in this church, right? We've got these 7 G's, and our last G is that everything we do, we are motivated, inspired, and compelled by the glory of God alone. Not by each other, not by Pastor Darrell, we do everything we do is for the glory of God alone. And then the last one, God is sovereign over the past, he's sovereign over the present, and he's sovereign over the future. God gives Pharaoh a heads up 14 years in advance before the 7 years of abundance, before the 7 years of famine. God is sovereign because he knows the past, the present, and the future. And he gives Pharaoh the dream because Egypt will be the place that the Mediterranean world comes to when the famine hits the region. The breadbasket for the Mediterranean world will be Egypt. Because of Joseph's wise counsel, because God has made him a wise young man. May we be wise beyond our years, not because age has taught us things, but because we're sitting at the feet of Jesus. And so we can lead our families, we can lead our organizations, we can lead our teams with wisdom because we are downloading the wisdom of God in our quiet times with the Lord. Let's pray. Lord, what an amazing God you are. You are, as we said before, you are a way maker, a miracle worker, a promise keeper, and a light in the darkness. So hungry we fall on our knees, and we will wait for you like Joseph waited for you in prison. 2 years, 11 years as a slave in Potiphar's house, but he just keeps waiting for you, trusting you because he knows who you are. So God, we're going to bless the Lord at all times, and all that's within me, bless his holy name. Because you're worthy, even while we're waiting, even when it's hard, even when it's difficult, even when our knees are beginning to buckle because we've been waiting so long. God, we're going to bless you at all times. Because you're worthy. because you never stop working. Even when I don't feel it, even when I don't sense it, I don't see it, you never stop. You never stop working. So God, may that message from our worship and the Word of God today, may it encourage our hearts. May it put steel in our spines as we trust you like Joseph had to trust you in the midst of all of these setbacks that lead to our setup. So, Father, for all those that are going to watch online, who need to know that you will not forsake us, you will not forget about us, but you are going to make a way for us. You're going to work a miracle for us. You're going to keep your promises to us. You're going to light the darkness for us because that is who you are. So, God, may we trust you profoundly in this moment. In Jesus' name. And everybody was encouraged today and said together, amen.